All right, welcome to the latest edition of Mob Talk, the Sit Down. I'm Dave Schratweiser.
And I'm George Anastasia.
George, we've been waiting for evidence against Joey Merlino in that big New York mob case, and now we have it. The first tape, at least the transcript of the tape, comes out. Quite an opening line.
Yeah, it's easy to kill somebody. That's what the feds are saying in the document, and interesting to see where this will go.
All right, well, let's talk about that a little bit. An opening line like that played at a trial, what kind of impact does that have?
Well, you know what it does? It's not related to any specific crime in the indictment, but for a jury, it paints a picture of who these guys are. And defense attorneys will always tell you, you can't cross-examine a tape. Here's these guys, in their own words, Joey Merlino and Rooster Onofrio, talking about murder, and very cavalierly. And I think that is effective in that it shows the jury their character.
All right, let's talk. That tape goes on to say, you know, it's a friend, somebody you trust, get him in the car.
Drive me home.
Take
shoot
me
you in
for
the back
a
of the
ride,
head, boom.
Shoot you in the head, it's all over. That's further stuff that the jury would probably eat up.
Yeah, I mean, and it, you know, it fits into this. Jurors are fairly sophisticated. They watch mob movies. That kind of stuff happens in movies all the time. And this is watching the movie in real life. So I think it can be very effective depending on what else the prosecution has. Now, this is one of, according to the document, 800 consensual tapes were made in this investigation. This is a piece of one. Probably other tapes that Joey and his lawyers will use to try to discredit the government's case. We just don't know, but this is a snippet, and it's an interesting snippet.
All right, one wise guy said to me this week, this could just be Joey puffing to a New York wise guy. You know, I'm a killer, I can do killings, whatever. He's never been convicted of a murder. He's been accused a couple times, never convicted at all. I want to make that very clear, never convicted.
No, that's absolutely correct. He's beaten a lot of murder, attempted murder cases. And, you know, it's granted, it doesn't go to a crime, but it does go to character. And in a trial, that's where you want to go. The other interesting thing to me is it's Onofrio and Merlino talking in front of Rubio, J.R. Rubio, the informant, the cooperating witness.
Who's making the tape?
He's making the tape. And what it shows me is they were comfortable with him. So it leads me to wonder, all right, what else does he have? What other kind of things were they talking about that they shouldn't be talking about? Right. And they felt comfortable talking about it in front of him.
But could this be Joey puffing?
Oh,
or does Joey need to puff?
I mean, it could be puffing. It could be a New York guy and a Philly guy talking about how tough they are. Absolutely can. Sure. And as I said, there's no murder charge in this case, so what do you do with it except go to, here's the character of these individuals, here's who they are.
All right, now, in the John Stanfa case here in Philadelphia in the mid-90s, tapes like this were incredibly damaging.
Absolutely.
Talk about that.
I mean, that's what I thought of when I saw this tape. If you remember that Stanfa trial, they opened, the first tape they played was Stanfa and Sergio Battaglia talking about a plot to kill Joey and Gaten Lucibello and another guy. We're going to lure him to a meeting, we're going to pop him in the back of the head, and at one point Stanfa says of Lucibello, yeah, I'm going to cut out his tongue, put it in an envelope, send it to his wife.
You and I were in the courtroom, you saw the jury's face on that. They were chilled by that.
And that conspiracy never led to, those guys didn't get killed, it didn't happen, but the government used it as the opening tape, again, to show the jury, here's who these guys are. And it's very damaging in that respect, and it sets a tone. And I think that's what this tape could do if the government has other things. We just don't know.
All right, now we know defense counsel Edwin Jacobs, Joey's lawyer for a long time. He wants to know what took place before that conversation, what took place after the conversation, what was the context of that comment. That's an important thing here.
Absolutely, the context, but it's going to be hard to imagine a benign context in it's easy to kill somebody, you know, that kind of thing. It's difficult. They'll try to spin it that way. I think what's more important is what are some of the other tapes and how do they relate to this case and how do they relate to the relationship between Rubio and Merlino.
All right, now there's some other stuff on these tapes. It comes right before this in the document. It talks about Joey having meetings about gambling debts, offshore gambling, stuff like that, and there's some guys complaining about Mr. Merlino not paying his debts. And there's a meeting coming up, and it's probably this meeting, at least from what we can tell from the tapes, between Onofrio and Joey talking about debts and a couple of other guys who are racking up debts.
Yeah, I mean, that's long been an economic problem for Joey, as best we can determine from the evidence that surfaced in this case and others, is that he likes to gamble and he doesn't always like to pay. I mean, one of the phrases I've heard he's used is "crime don't pay." And I'm crime, so I don't have to pay. I mean, and bookmakers would run when they saw him coming.
Yeah, that's an economic problem, is that what you call that? Okay, cool. I like that. I've not heard that.
And this is consistent with that. I mean, people who know Joey Merlino here in Philadelphia, that would not be unusual to hear. He had some economic problems, some debts, those kind of things.
All right, let's make a little news here today. This tape may not have just hurt in New York. We know for a fact that the FBI down here in Philadelphia is constantly looking at unsolved murders here, mob hits, that 5, 6, 10, you could add up all the numbers. They're constantly looking at a way to get into that kind of thing. If they were to come up with charges in a situation like that, could you see that tape also coming back to haunt Joey here in Philadelphia?
That's where this tape is more effective. If this tape is used in a case in which murders are charged, it's much more effective.
Yeah.
And I can see that very much. I mean, you know, we've talked about this. Is New York basically going to fold their tent and hand this case over to Philadelphia if Philadelphia is doing something? And it looks like Philadelphia is doing something. So yeah, it could be a very effective tape in that context, more so than in the racketeering, gambling case that's pending in New York.
All right, now I want to make it clear, nobody's charged at this point. Joey's not charged with anything like that, but it is no secret that they'd like to make some of these murder cases. They are looking for cooperators, people who would give them an inside track into some of these murders and then bring in some of these government witnesses they've used before to kind of be the salt and pepper in a case like that.
To bolster it. I mean, we've been talking about this forever. Ronnie Turchi, Johnny Casasanto, Long John Mortorano, Dutchy Avicoli, and it goes all the way. We can go all the way back to Louis Irish and Jimmy Broom.
Rocco Maniscalco.
Yeah, there's so many different unsolved mob murders, and yeah, I think if the feds in Philadelphia could bring a case with multiple murders with some support, that's the way they would.
Well, you got to have a cooperator, right?
I think they almost have to.
A new one.
Given what's happened in the past, where they've dropped the ball, I think they won't come unless they've got a cooperator.
All right. If they could open a trial with this tape and close a trial with this tape,
I think that's the effectiveness of this tape. On the surface, it doesn't prove anything, but it says a lot about who the individuals are.
All right, let's be fair and finish up here that Joey Merlino's not charged with any murders. There are no pending murder cases that we're aware of in this situation, and he is not charged with a murder in this New York case.
Absolutely. There's no violence against the charges against Merlino in that New York case at all. It's gambling and it's insurance fraud. So yeah, I mean, right now, you know, he's accused. He's innocent until proven guilty. That's the way it stands.
All right, George, a couple of court matters to clear up. The next hearing, end of August, on pretrial motions, and the trial has now been moved to the beginning of January 2018.
Yeah, pretrial events mean more motions, maybe more information. We'll see.
Okay, I'm Dave Schratweiser.
I'm George Anastasia.
We'll see you next time.